You're not even part of the engineering team. What do you think you're doing?" The lead tech snapped as she stepped toward the console. She didn't answer, just moved past him, adjusted 3 wires, typed 6 lines, and the system that had been down for 11 days came back online without a sound. The room froze. No applause, just stunned silence. Because after weeks of failure, it wasn't an expert who solved it. It was her. If Quiet Mind Still Matter type watched, learned, solved. Below, the Defense R&D Command at Raven Hill Base was running on fumes. A new satellite-linked targeting system had failed diagnostics 11 days in a row. Every time it powered up, it overloaded and shut down, taking the entire ops panel offline with it. 12 engineers, 4 outside consultants, even a Lockheed contractor had tried everything. Nothing worked. Everyone was tired, frustrated. Some quietly blamed the code. Others said it was hardware. Some muttered the word scrap. In the corner of the rooms, at the coffee station, stood Mayatron. She wasn't part of the core team. She worked in systems archiving, responsible for logging test data, updating change logs, and recording shifts. Most people thought she was a glorified admin. She didn't correct them, but she listened. And every night after the engineers left, she stayed. Not to clock overtime, but to sit near the test bench, scroll through error reports, and sketch possible cross-link faults on a legal pad no one ever saw. She had a background in neural systems integration, but no one asked, and she never volunteered. The engineers would arrive each morning, coffee in hand, discussing the same theories they'd recycled for days. Maya would already be there quietly updating logs, filing reports, watching them repeat the same failed approaches. Try increasing the buffer allocation. One would suggest, "We already tried that." Another would reply, "What about the thermal sensors? Check those yesterday." Round and round they went. Maya kept notes, not official ones, just observations on torn napkins, coffee-stained sticky notes, margins of printouts she was supposed to file. She noticed patterns. The engineers missed timing discrepancies, power fluctuations that occurred exactly 17 seconds after initialization, cross-references between seemingly unrelated error codes. But she was just the archive girl. So she watched and learned and said nothing until day 11 when the console sparked again and another $600,000 worth of simulation gear failed in front of 2 colonels and a contractor from DARPA. The room erupted in controlled chaos, engineers scrambling over schematics, voices raised in technical arguments, fingers pointing at waveform displays and diagnostic readouts. Maya stood at her usual spot, clipboard in hand, watching the same cycle of confusion she'd observed for nearly 2 weeks. But this time was different. Because this time, she finally understood what everyone else had missed. The system wasn't broken. And it was doing exactly what it was designed to do, just not what anyone expected it to do. And Mayatron, the invisible girl in the corner, was the only one who saw it. Sometimes being overlooked is the perfect angle to see what everyone else has missed. If you've ever solved something in silence, type "I was just watching" below. The room was buzzing. People shouting over schematics, arguing over fault logs, cross-referencing supply errors from 6 months ago. Maya stood at the edge, holding her clipboard. She wasn't invited to the briefing, but no one noticed her there. Colonel Martinez was pacing. "We need solutions, not excuses. This system goes live in 2 weeks, and we can't even get it through basic diagnostics." The Lockheed contractor, a man named Stevens, spread his hands. "Sir, we've checked every component, every line of code. The hardware is solid, the software is clean, but something's causing a cascade failure every time we initialize." Paul Renner, the lead engineer, wipes sweat from his forehead. "It has to be the primary processing loop. We're missing something fundamental." Opus or Stevens countered, "We're dealing with a manufacturing defect that's not showing up in standard tests." As the shouting peaked, Maya stepped forward. "It's not the primary loop," she said quietly. "It's the cross-load on the diagnostic pass-through. It's firing as if it's still in live mode." The room went silent. Paul turned sharply. "Excuse me. You're backfeeding real-world targeting data into a simulation loop. It's frying the isolation buffer." He laughed dismissively. "Maya, right? You're not even part of the engineering team. What do you think you're doing? Maya didn't flinch, didn't argue, didn't explain. She walked past him, bent down to the back panel of the main console. Her fingers moved with surprising confidence, disconnecting 3 specific wires, the ones everyone assumed were correctly configured because they had been installed by the original design team. "Ma'am," Colonel Martinez said carefully, "are you sure you know what your Maya reversed the connections?" The room watched in stunned silence as she pulled up the diagnostic interface on the main screen. Her typing was precise, economical, 6 lines of code that bypassed the standard initialization sequence and forced the system into true simulation mode rather than the hybrid state it had been defaulting to. Then she hit enter. The main screen blinked, flickered once, then stayed on, steady. No error messages, no warning lights. The simulation loop began running smoothly. All indicators showed normal operation. The targeting system that had been dead for 11 days was alive. The room went dead silent. Paul stared at the screen, his face cycling through confusion, embarrassment, and something approaching awe. How did you know that?" Maya straightened, brushing dust from her hands. "I read everything. I watched every test. I memorized every fault code. And I stopped thinking like the system wanted me to." She paused at the door. "The diagnostic pass-through was designed for live operations, but you were using it in simulation mode. The system kept trying to establish real satellite links during diagnostic tests. That's why it overloaded." Stevens, the Lockheed contractor, shook his head slowly. "We never thought to check the mode compatibility on the diagnostic layer." "No," Ma said simply. "You never ask someone who watches instead of assumes." She walked out without another word. Behind her, Colonel Martinez leaned toward Paul. "Put her on the lead list now." Paul nodded, still staring at the functioning console. "Yes, sir." But Maya was already gone, walking down the corridor toward her small office in the archives department, where she would spend the rest of the day filing reports about the successful system test she had just made possible. The system that had stumped 12 engineers, 4 consultants, and a defense contractor, fixed by the girl who listened. By the end of the week, the error was listed as resolved. The satellite system passed every live fire simulation that followed. Word spread quickly through Raven Hill. The girl from archiving. She didn't just fix it. She understood it better than the design team. Maya tried to return to her normal routine. File reports, update logs, stay invisible. But invisibility was no longer an option. One tech from Lockheed returned the following Monday, asked to speak with her. "Miss Tran, I'm David Chin from Lockheed's integration team. We'd like to discuss a position with our Advanced Systems division." She declined. "I'm not looking for offers, but you solved in minutes what we couldn't figure out in weeks." "I had the advantage of time and silence." Chun persisted. "We could offer you a significant salary increase, stock options, your own lab." Maya shook her head. "I already have what I need." Paul approached her in the break room 2 days later. "Maya, I owe you an apology. What you did was remarkable." She poured coffee, didn't look up. "It was necessary. I spoke with command." "You want a permanent spot on the architecture team, Lou? Engineer, track your own projects?" "No," she replied. "I want people to stop assuming silence equals inexperience." She wasn't angry, just tired. Paul shifted uncomfortably. "Look, I know I was dismissive, but you have to understand we'd been working on this for 11 days, Maya interrupted. "I know I counted." "Then, you know how frustrated we were." "I know how frustrated you were." "I also know you never asked for help from anyone who wasn't already part of your solution." Later that month, the DARPA contractor returned. This time, he asked different questions. "Mr. Tran, I'm Dr. Sarah Walsh from DARPA's Advanced Systems office. We have a black box issue in a different system, something that's been stumping our teams for 3 months." Maya looked up from her filing. "What kind of system? Classified, but similar complexity to what you solved here. Would you consult?" Maya considered. "Only if I can sit at the back and listen first." "Of course. And I work alone until I'm ready to share findings." "Understood." In 1 month, she solved 2 more long-standing faults that had stumped development cycles. Each time she walked in quietly, didn't touch anything until she was sure. Her legal pad, now full of sketches and equations, became a quiet legend. No one was allowed to copy it. She left it face down when not in use. The original engineering team, most were still there, but now when she entered a room, they stood up. Not out of ceremony, out of respect. Maya noticed the change, but didn't comment. She still ate lunch alone. Still wore her headphones during breaks. Still took notes on napkins instead of official reports. But something had shifted. Young engineers started asking her questions, not about solutions, about approach, about how to see systems differently. How do you know where to look? One asked. I don't, Mia replied. I look everywhere until something doesn't match. But that could take forever. Only if you're in a hurry. Colonel Martinez called her into his office one afternoon. Maya, I want you to know that what you did changed how we approach problem solving here. We're implementing new protocols, multi-perspective analysis, mandatory listening periods. That's good. We're also creating a position for you, Systems Integration Specialist. You'd have autonomy to investigate any technical issue across all departments. Maya was quiet for a long moment. I accept. But I keep my current office. It's quite small. It's perfect because Mayatrin had learned something the engineers hadn't. Sometimes the best view of a system is from the outside looking in. 6 months later, a group of cadets toured the Ravenhill Lab as part of a military tech immersion program. Their instructor, Lieutenant Colonel Parks, stopped in front of a frame schematic near the testing floor. It was marked System 9 Failure, Recovery Day 11. One cadet, a young woman named Rodriguez, asked, Who solved it? Lieutenant Colonel Parks smiled. Not who you'd expect. He gestured toward a corner office behind a glass wall. Inside, Maya sat alone, earbuds, and flipping through diagnostic logs, surrounded by monitors displaying system performance data from across the base. That's Maya Tran. She's our systems integration specialist. The cadets looked puzzled. Maya appeared to be in her late 20s, dressed simply, focused entirely on her work. She looks young, another cadet observed. She is, but she sees things others miss. Rodriguez pressed closer to the glass. What's she working on? Everything. She monitors every critical system on base. When something doesn't perform as expected, she investigates alone. She prefers to it that way. The colonel from the original failure stepped into the hallway. Colonel Martinez had aged well in the past months, his confidence restored by the success of multiple system implementations. I know you don't want a spotlight, he said, entering Mia's office. She looked up, removed one earbud. Colonel, but we're naming the override protocol after you. Mia returned to her screen. You don't have to. We do, he insisted. Because every time this system runs across all our installations, it stays on because of 6 lines you wrote. She finally smiled, a rare expression that transformed her entire face. Then call it what it was meant to be, a correction, not a rescue. From that day, the protocol patch was labeled Maya 6 Passive Logic Override in every branch that used the system after her name appeared in the boot log. A quiet acknowledgement that scrolled past too quickly for most users to notice. But she never told anyone. She still walked to work alone each morning, arriving before most of the engineering staff. Still ate lunch with her headphones and reviewing system logs while others socialized. Still left notes on napkins instead of sending emails because she wasn't there for the applause. She was there for the moment when the lights came back on and stayed that way. The cadets moved on with their tour, but Rodriguez lingered watching Mia work. Ma'am, she asked through the glass. Mia looked up, surprised. How did you know the system was fixable when everyone else thought it was broken? Maya removed both earbuds. I didn't think it was broken. I thought it was confused. What's the difference? Broken things need replacement. Confused things need clarity. Rodriguez nodded slowly. And you gave it clarity. I gave it permission to do what it was designed to do. The cadet rejoined her group, but Maya's words stayed with her. Years later, when Rodriguez became an engineer herself, she would remember that moment. The quiet woman who solved problems by listening instead of assuming. who fix systems by understanding them rather than forcing them. Maya returned to her monitor's earbuds back in place, watching the steady flow of data from systems across the base. All of them running smoothly, all of them staying on. Some people break silence. Others work inside it until the system finally listens. If you've ever solved something no one thought you could type fixed, without permission below,